Let's head out.
Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Figured I'd just talk a bit of shit. Do you guys think that Prey, that Predator prequel, would have become a cult classic had it not been a Predator movie? Like, by not a Predator movie, I mean they lent into the whole Wendigo angle as hard as they possibly could, and it would have been Comanche Indian folklore monster rather than feral predator. Don't get me wrong, the feral predator idea is cool and everything, but how hard do you guys reckon that lent on the Predator's name in order to be a successful IP?
Joey, we're under attack.
Because, like, honestly, all the action, the story, how she was learning from mistakes and everything, the themes in it, I think it was all pretty solid just by itself. I mean, the Predator fighting the bear stuff was cool and everything, but could have just been like a Wendigo fighting a bear, and you would have had that not only originality, but you would have had like a showcase of like a mysterious... You would have had a new movie monster as well, a new movie monster IP. Like, it didn't necessarily need to rely on existing IP to legitimize itself. Like, obviously there's some suspension of disbelief, like the rope tomahawk, as if that wouldn't get caught on literally fucking anything. And I don't know if you guys have ever thrown an axe before. You got to get the spin on that thing right, otherwise the bastard bounces off. I cannot imagine getting the spin right on an axe with a rope tied to the arse end of it. Like, that weapon would be very, very short range. It would be under one revolution, so you would be within like 4 meters of everything you threw it at. And look, I doubt the edge alignment would even be, you know, proper as well. Like, she was throwing that and it was sticking into shit. Like, sorry, but I doubt it. But, like, you know, there was a bit of that. There was a bit of, you know, girl power in it. They didn't lean into the girl power too hard, though. They had the older brother being sort of as competent, if not more competent than the girl, which was fine. But, like, that's a Comanche tribe? Like, Comanches were, like... what was it, Empire of the Summer Moon or something. There was a book about it. Comanches were horrible. They were like gang raping settlers and, you know, Manson murdering everyone. Like, they were running riot over, like, pretty much everyone there for a while. It took the Rangers and, like, you know, multiple shot revolvers to come in to pretty much handle them. Like, in Empire of the Summer Moon, there was this one moment which stuck out to me, where the Rangers go, they ambush them, they pin them into a canyon, and they manage to capture all the horses, because, like, they would usually trade losses, like, capture each other's horses and everything, because out on the plains, the horses was, like, the most necessary piece of equipment. Otherwise, you could just literally walk until you died, because, like, the distances were that vast and there was no water or anything. So the Rangers captured the horses of the Comanches, and rather than, you know, holding them and giving the Comanches the opportunity to steal them back, the Rangers just executed all of the horses at the mouth of the canyon to make it a point that the age of the Comanche was over. Like, it was a brilliant book. It had moments like that which were really cool. But yeah, the Comanches were kind of evil assholes. Like, okay, you're gonna pick that. And look, I don't think they were very, you know, feminist focused if they were going to be doing gang raping on white settlers and stuff like that. And literally warring with other tribes and torturing other tribes to death and shit. Like, yeah. But, you know what? I'll forget it. I'm moving backwards in my enjoyment of the movie to a time where Comanches were noble savages just to enjoy this movie, and that's fine. But, like, in addition to girl power and whitewashing Comanches, they also demonized white people, which is like, you'd expect that for a sort of conditioning for a movie, for a left-wing sort of movie in a climate like this. They depicted the French hunters and stuff, and like, who were like hunting all the buffalo, and like, yeah, fair enough that the hunters and shit that did that stuff, they were pretty gross people. Like, they were mentioned in like Empire of the Summer Moon as well, but like, I don't think they were as bad as the Comanches, and they were like depicted as worse. They were like depicted as like, you know, rapists and torturers of women and, you know, all that sort of shit. And it's just like, okay, like, we're getting a lot of that these days, a lot of the demonization of, you know, colonial forces, I guess you'd say. Can we get a bit real on that, though? Like, in some instances, the colonizers were, like, vastly morally superior. Like, some cultures have, like, child sacrifices in them and stuff like that, and, like, colonial forces came in and there was a ton of military fighting and conquest and all that sort of thing. And then the child sacrifice shit just kind of stopped. Like, can we not get credit for that shit? Do we have to be demonized in every piece of left-wing art still? Like, it's just insane. Like, there's all this, like, black superiority and indigenous noble savage superiority depicted in films. Like, okay, if you want to do a fair and impartial account showing evils on both sides, that's perfectly fine, go ahead. But it doesn't seem to be balanced. Like, okay, like, take the Aboriginals in Australia, for example. Like, they were warring, they were tribal nomadic people, they were warring between tribes. At the start of colonisation of Australia, they traded massacres with the white settlers. It wasn't just, you know, one-sided. And since they were tribal and nomadic, did they really have a claim on the land? They were, like, moving through it. You know what I mean? And, like, settlers come in and, alright, they take the land, okay. They also set up all the infrastructure and farming and brought technology, which they didn't have. Like, can we not get credit for that as well? Like, you know, water pipes, water, electricity, heating, you know, all the things that actually make life a little bit better. Medicine, hospitals, that sort of thing. Like, okay, if you had cancer and you were just like in an Aboriginal tribe, you would just kind of die at like 30, I guess. Can we not get a bit of credit for that? Like, do we have to be demonized in everything? And look, if we're being honest about, you know, repression and outrage and historical injustice, a ton of those early settlers were essentially convicts coming from England. A lot of them, like, you know, convicted because they stole bread and shit like that. And were used as a slave labour base to build the country of Australia. There should be some national pride there, shouldn't there? Like, sure, we were, you know, enslaved, but we also built a country. You know, so, like, and then we're just demonised because we stole the land from Aboriginals who weren't exactly using it well. Like, I know it's a bit racist to say, there was a politician not long ago who got in trouble for saying it, but they were tribal and nomadic. They didn't quite get to, you know, properly recording history. They didn't quite get to the wheel. Like, okay, like, pretty vastly technologically inferior, and because of that, there would be a lot of suffering, you know, in the Aboriginal lifestyle as a result of that. As a result of the technological inferiority of them. Like, it's not racist to point that out, that the culture didn't quite get there. Like, it's a fact. And, like, okay, you want to preserve the culture, that's fine, preserve the culture, but are we playing some sort of Marxist, you know, demonization of, you know, colonial forces in the name of communism here by criticizing, you know, colonial settlers, which, like, in some instances they were, like, literally meant well. Like, the White Australia policy meant well. It was bad, they stole kids, but they were attempting to integrate Aboriginals into white culture. Okay, like, okay, it's bad, they wound up being servants and second-class citizens and stuff. Yeah, but it was well-intentioned, and, you know, they weren't, you know, whipped and, you know, slaves. And quite frankly, I'm fucking sick of hearing about slaves from people who call themselves Marxists and communists. Like, what was it, 55 to 65 million slaves in Soviet gulags under bloody Marxist communist Stalin. Get fucked with your friggin' outrage nonsense. What? So because the slavery in the Soviet Union under Marxism and communism wasn't based on race, you think you've got some sort of point here? Like, the suffering was the same, if not worse. Like, it's fucking complete bullshit. Like, any criticism from, like, a Marxist or a communist, they're not even, like, basing it in, like, any sort of standard. They're completely they're ignorant of history. They have, like, no understanding of history whatsoever. Like, any ideology that has given rise to, like, what, North Korea, China, and the Soviet Union, you should keep your fucking mouth shut about slavery. You should not say anything. You should be very, very quiet about your beliefs in public. You shouldn't be stopping people and yelling from rooftops and shit. But I digress. So, Comanches were sort of like very light, less organised Mongols. They weren't white, sort of noble society with equal rights for every single person. It's a nomadic tribe. Like, okay, yeah, there's not exactly rule of law there. There's going to be murders. There's going to be, you know, rapes. There's going to be all sorts of horrible shit when you don't have rule of law. Yeah, it's not going to be all nice and white and noble savage, okay? That's the point. That's the point of that. The same goes for places that don't record culture. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. So, just because there's no recorded history of horrible atrocities and wars and all that sort of thing in nomadic cultures doesn't mean they weren't there. It just means the ones either survived it and passed it on through word of mouth and then died out, or they just completely died out because they were completely obliterated as a tribe, or, you know, obliterated to the point where they had the women and children stolen by the other tribe. Okay, the same thing applies to the communists. Just because you destroy the history doesn't mean the history's not there. Okay? So, all these Marxists and communists and shit that tout Marxism and communism as some sort of, you know, viable economic theory, really need to take into account that all of the media there was heavily, heavily censored. It's not anything like the West. It's not anything like the internet these days. It's completely repressed, completely censored. You only need to look at China to see that. You only need to look at the Soviet Union to see that. So, Prey, what have we got? We've got feminist girl power, we've got whitewashing of nomadic tribes, we've got demonization of whites. I mean, I guess they at least had some sort of acknowledgement of superior technology, of colonial forces and adoption of said technology. She does wind up using guns and, you know, stealing and using predator technology. I don't know how heavy the metaphor there is to do with regard to fighting colonizing forces, with this, the predator in theory being a colonizing force, even though it's sort of hunting. I guess the theme is still kind of there. The predator using natives as its playthings, sort of thing. I guess that was sort of the theme of competence within the tribe, but I would be very careful giving any sort of Marxist credit for that, because competence can easily be mistaken for a justification of use of power, and the ideology of the only thing that exists is power, which is like a communist friggin' Marxist theme they like try to push everywhere. There's like no morality, there's only power, you can lie, you can cheat, you can steal, sort of thing. You find this like with a ton of people preoccupied with aesthetics and the subjectivity of truth and all that sort of thing. Yeah, I guess. Like, it's not the clearest cut theme of it, but, you know, that's fine. So, like, now I'm just thinking, okay, let's say they had lent into the truth of the Comanches sort of thing, and the whole thing had started up, like, with a massive battle between Comanches with arrows on horseback against, like, white settlers. Comanches wiped out the white settlers. Predator saw this, thought it was a good idea for hunting and that sort of thing. Like, you would have a much different sort of tone and setting. Like, it would be grayer, but it'd be more realistic. It'd be more interesting, in my opinion, rather than, you know, Comanches are, you know, good, noble savages sort of thing, never committed a wrong, and the predator is hunting them just because for some reason it's hunting large animals in the area. Other than that, you could have, you know, done the same thing but gone with the Wendigo sort of aspect of Comanche culture and still done that. Could have created a new IP, would have been a great little world they would have created, sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how necessary the use of Predator IP was there. But look, wasn't a bad watch. Worth a watch at least. Just beware, it does have those conditioning elements, those social engineering elements in there that you will not pay attention to, that will condition you to behave a certain way and think a certain way about history, which is not necessarily true. I might start a new rating system. I'll give it 1 thumb if its quality outweighs its Marxism. This one gets 1 thumb.
Fuck you!
You're not leaving this place! Oh!
Being a... Damn it! Watch out!
Too close. All right. Holy shit.